This is Radio TV Phono Nut, and this video is going to be more for information more than anything else. For those of you who are looking for older Califone record players to play your 78s on and want to know which one to buy, this might help you. This one here is a Califone model 1010AV, and this is a third generation model. They made about 4 versions of them from about 1992 until around 2004. All 4 of them use the crappy DC motors and plastic drive mechanisms, and the first 2 generations were USA made. The last 2 were Chinese, which I'll show you in just a minute. You'll get a laugh out of this. This one here is like I believe I said, a 3rd generation. If I can get the thing where I can get the lid off of it. There we go. And if that turntable platter doesn't look right for this model, well, it's not. And here's the reason it's not the right one. Here's the original platter, all plastic. It doesn't even have a metal center bushing. I mean, heck, even those cheap kiddie record players from the 60s with a plastic platter had a metal bushing in the center. And the result was this platter was running uneven, up, down, up, down, up, down, and it just drives me crazy. They shouldn't do that anyway. So I had this metal platter from a Califone that's about 30 years older that I junked. It was paired with one of the good General Industries mechanisms that uses an AC motor, and it just so happens this platter will fit on this record player just fine. And since the mat is gone off of here, this had one of those cheap foam rubber platter pads, which I hate. I just ripped off the mat from the plastic platter, and we will eventually glue that down on here. I'd love to have a bunch of these types of mats like this, but they don't seem to be available anymore. And I haven't run up on any new old stock ones on eBay lately. The last time I found any was several years ago, and I think they had 10 of them for a reasonable price, and I bought them, and it didn't take long for me to use them all either. As you can see, this platter spins nice and even, like one's supposed to. Now I'm going to pull the platter off, and this is where the fun's going to start. You'll love this. Look at the words printed under the platter in a place where they wouldn't be seen unless the platter was removed for whatever reason. Made in China. I guess they were real sneaky with that. I guess they were ashamed to put the Made in China wording where somebody could actually see it. And here's the drive mechanism, mostly plastic. It uses the same idler wheel that some of the old General Industries motors used. The mechanism itself seems to be working okay, and as long as it's working, we won't mess with it. But if it ever fails, I'll replace it with one of the good old AC motor-driven General Industries mechanisms. The only problem with that will be the pause control. In the older models, all the pause control did was disengage the idler wheel and simultaneously applied a platter brake to instantly stop the platter. Well, in most of these DC motor-driven models, all the pause control does is removes voltage from the DC motor, and the motor stops fairly quickly. Now, I've got some ideas as to how I could still keep my pause feature and have the AC motor stop instantly, but it's going to take some engineering and circuit building, which, like I said, as long as this mechanism's working, we'll leave it alone. I stuck the old platter back on just to give you an idea how off it is. And sometimes it was more, I mean, see how this is, how worn out this is? Had they simply used a metal bushing here instead of making this all plastic, this might not be an issue. And once again, see how even that platter turns. Now the 4th generation 1010AV Looks similar to this, except it did not use a shifter for the speeds. It just simply had a 3-position slide switch. And I believe that one used a 5-watt amplifier, where this one uses a 10. And instead of a 4x10-inch speaker, it used 2 4-inch speakers wired in series. And it sounded okay, but it didn't sound as good as this one. And on that note, a lot of the older Caliphones with the 6x9 speaker sound even better than this model. And you can see this one, they have it suspended on springs here. Alright, here's the underside with the amplifier circuit board, the speaker, the power transformer, and the little drive mechanism. Look at that puny little DC motor. That looks like something you'd see in a kid's toy, not a record player. And actually, Califone started using the DC motors in about 1989 with the 1400C and 1100C series. So if you want a good Califone with the AC motor, stick with the older Ream Califone branded units and the Caliphones with model numbers 1400K and 1100K, and I think there was a 1600K too. But the K suffix means track light tone arm. The newer C suffix means DC motor drive. Now there were some older Ream Califone units that had a C model suffix, but those are okay. Those still have the AC motor. Now, as far as quality, the build quality and the sound quality of this one is still way better than a modern Crosley, but it's still not nearly as well as the older institutional style record players. You know, if you find one of these for $5 or $10, it might be worth taking a chance on, but if it's one they want any major amount of money for, you just be better off to pass and get you an older one that has the AC motor in it. And eventually I'll get around to sanding this platter down and painting it black so it'll match the original platter, and then I'll glue this mat on there. But right now I'll give it a little demonstration for you. You'll find him anywhere. Yeah, I don't want to get that too loud, or somebody's going to come running out and tell me to cool it. Alright, LP, pause, if only
and Other Tales of the White Mountains by Nathaniel Hawthorne, published by Houghton Mifflin Company, copyright 1935 by Houghton Mifflin Company. Recorded on 2 records for the Library of Congress in the studios of the American Printing House for the Blind, 1960.
And a 78.
Is there someone for me?
Now the one after this was the 1005 that was introduced in about 2004 or 5 and discontinued around 2017. And it was basically a rebadged Crosley, and to my knowledge, Califone is not even in the record player business anymore. They're still around, but I think all of their products are outsourced. Nothing's made in-house anymore. So there you go, just a little something for your entertainment this afternoon.